I'm Thomas Nichols, CEO and founder of Pretika Medtech. We're addressing the need to reduce the admission rate of patients that have surgical site infections, sepsis, and negative outcomes from acute and chronic surgery. With a 15% readmission rate, it's a tremendous impact on the patient's healing journey, but more important, a tremendous impact on the healthcare costs for the hospitals because when they're readmitted, Medicare isn't covering that. Or the private healthcare insurance, they have to apply to make sure they get coverage. So it's a direct burden on the healthcare costs. Our embedded connected wound care technology device, it's designed to allow clinicians to monitor the healing process of acute and chronic surgical wounds without having to see the patient or remove the dressings. It's an incredible technology which time has come. Because with healthcare cost and the patient's healing journey, it's the hospital at home environment. So this technology being embedded in the wound care dressings allows clinicians to truly monitor the healing process, to capture complications, detect them before they become serious. So what we've discovered is that it's about ensuring that when the patient doesn't reach that point where they complain about pain, because from the physician's standpoint, it's too late. So by having this embedded connected wound care technology, where we place three forms of optical technologies used in hospital settings, digital, hyperspectral, multispectral, within a micro medical sized device that's placed non-invasively above the wound area and then embedded in the overall wound care dressings, CAS disease monitoring wraps, with built-in connectivity to the cloud, it enables clinicians to go in and look in real time or pre-programmed frequency of how often they want to see images, and it's sent with its connectivity into the cloud, into the patient's EHR, so clinicians can monitor and diagnose the potential of negative outcomes. And once the information is in the cloud, we can use AI for anomaly detection alerts or for predictive analytics in terms of now we've had a series of images over several hours, several days, several weeks. We can put together a predictive analytics model through AI that will tell the clinicians there's a 70% chance of a negative outcome or it's looking perfect. Within the acute and chronic surgical wounds, those patients that are released from the hospital, 15% are readmitted within the first 30 days due to surgical site infections, sepsis, and negative outcomes. And that truly impacts the patient's healing journey. And to have to be readmitted into the hospital, the average readmission is between 5 to 7 days, which is a tremendous cost burden on the hospital, up to $17,000 in length of stay cost associated with that patient being readmitted. And at the same time, it's that impact on the patient's healing journey that is so important. And here they have to be readmitted. When you look at the US marketplace, it affects 15% of those patients released with post-surgical site infection and sepsis and negative outcome surgeries that are related to acute and chronic wounds. So with the current environment, you have patients that are relying upon the telehealth connection between the clinicians and their teams to finding out what the healing experience, how's it going, or having to call them in to see them, or waiting for the patient, unfortunately, to complain about pain to bring them in. This technology allows clinicians in real time or pre-programmed frequency to be able to go in and look at that wound and capture and document the images to be able to diagnose the status of that wound. And so if they see sepsis, they see surgical site infections, they can increase the medicants. They can send the patient to a clinic or send an outpatient nursing team member to their home without having to readmit the patient. And that's the benefit to the hospital system and to the patient. It's a better level of care and pathway journey for healing. Again, we're bringing to the healthcare system and to patient care the ability to reduce costs and provide a better pathway for the healing process. The patient's journey is so important that it can be seamless, that they can experience really great care. But in our healthcare environment today, even with all the biopharma, the techniques in treating surgeries and wound care dressings, the amount of surgical site infections, sepsis, and negative outcomes is very prevalent, and it's worldwide. So when we concentrate just here in the US, we have 50 million surgeries performed annually, and of that, when you have 15% being readmitted for those that are in those high SSI, surgical site infection, and sepsis and negative outcome categories, it really leads to a patient experience that's not positive and a direct impact on cost to healthcare. The device is designed to be adaptive to the current wound care dressing methods. It's micromedical in size. It allows to be embedded within dressings, casts, and disease monitoring routes. It also creates a great monitoring need for rural patients. So it's just not patients that are released from the hospital, but it's rural patients that now clinicians can really monitor and provide a much better medical service. And so this is the incredible aspect about embedded connected wound care technology is that it can benefit a broad base of patients in multiple medical specialties. Embedded connected wound care technology is designed to be placed over the wound that utilizes a technology that we've also developed in addition to the device of a medical grade foam that contours to the area of the body that is being placed. And in this case, it's a necrotic infection wound. And then the overall device and the imaging technology is placed over the wound and then embedded in the traditional adaptive wound care methods, casts, and disease monitoring wraps, which then, through its connective technology, it captures the images and sends it right into the cloud to the EHR, where clinicians can monitor the healing process to look for surgical site infections, sepsis, and other negative outcomes, and to be able to capture those complications in advance to save the patient from the duress of having to be readmitted to the hospital. And it's a great way to lower healthcare costs in terms of readmission as well. We are at the pre-FDA 510(k) submission. What's interesting about our device technology, yes, it's remote patient monitoring, it is optics, and yet we're in the same class as MRI and CAT scans because the FDA views this as reading film. So under class LLZ, it's a tremendous class to be in because great reimbursement codes, HIPAA codes for this area of radiology, and it can be used by clinicians in broad medical specialties. So we found and are part of a great classification within the FDA. And we're also considered a low-risk device because we're non-invasive. We're placed above the wound and capturing the full images of that field of view of the wound that enables the clinicians to detect tissue characterization, or using multispectral and hyperspectral camera imaging devices, the wavelengths of color images that detect oxygen levels, temperature, and also bacteria. From a milestone standpoint, with medical devices, it's all about de-risking. So in this 3-year development, we've been able to de-risk the IP. We've received 4 patents covering a total of 87 allowances within the device, optics, and computer-related matter side, which is the connectivity. So by de-risking the IP, we've created an incredible moat around this technology. This is the first embedded optical and sensor device submitted to the FDA, and that's why they put us under Class LLZ radiology. We thought it would be a de novo, but in their view, it's reading film as clinicians do within radiology. It's about reading the film. So it's great to be within that class. And then to be able to de-risk the FDA, that's such an important milestone to reach. And then with that, the HCPCS codes and reimbursement codes that emanate from radiology are very broad, that ensures hospital settings and clinicians get paid. Our phase 1 commercialization will center solely on the optics technology, But when we look at the future and where this technology could be, being a device that's embedded within dressings, casts, disease monitoring wraps, we'll also be bringing for our phase 2 the technologies of therapeutics and curative, where we will place within the device UVC lights that can be activated by the clinicians remotely so that this particular patient, if they see potential for bacteria, they can use UVC to treat. So it becomes a curative device. Also, from a therapeutic standpoint, we can place a chamber that can dispense medicants, another aspect to providing a curative property for the patient so they don't have to be seen or the dressings removed. And that's the key benefit to the performance of this device. Clinicians can diagnose the healing process without having to see the patient or remove the dressings.